Hello, dreamy people. Welcome back to The Haven. I'm here today with my good friend Pamela R. Browne to talk about her Power Up Life movement that focuses on igniting your personal power towards achieving greatness. Pamela is an impact leader, speaker, strategist, author, and the founder of Power Up Life Boss book series that strives to train and provide support to professionals. Her message focuses on leading from a platform of excellence to encourage, empower, equip, and elevate. So without further ado, joining me in welcoming my dear friend, Pamela to The Haven.
Hello.
I'm tired.
No worries. No worries.
So thank you, 100, for coming to The Haven.
Thank you
finally.
For having me. Thank you for having me.
We got it together.
We got it
and
together.
And you're here.
We got it together. We're here.
I'm so happy. So this is your book. You got this. Now this is actually the journal for intentional living. And I know you're working on the book, but let's talk about how this came to be. What inspired you to put together this journal? And we'll talk a lot more in depth about the journal itself. But what inspired you to create it and publish it?
Wow. Well, again, thank you for having me and for the opportunity. You Got This came about after years and years and years of traveling our country and working with clinicians, in particular on teaching them and being a resource to them on how to work with their clients, how to work with their patients. And after a session, after a workshop, a seminar, I would always end it by telling them and encouraging them and saying, you got this. Meaning you can go out and serve the people that you're supposed to serve, the other clinicians, the other patients. But in that process, I also told them about the power of journaling. Journaling, writing your feelings, what's going on with you, especially because I said therapists need therapy and counselors need counseling. And one of the ways to channel those feelings in a healthy way is through journaling. So after a couple of sessions, I heard people say, you tell us to journal, but I don't have a journal.
You don't have one?
No, they would tell me that I would say at the end of a training, you know, talk about the power of journaling. But they would say, you tell us, talking about me, you tell us, you encourage us to journal, but I don't have a journal. Journaling is not cool. What is it about this journal? So that was part of the inspiration, like, how can I tell people to journal, but they don't have the tools and the instruments to do it? That was part of the inspiration of You Got This.
Wow. So I mean, it's a fact, and it's been studied that journaling and writing your feelings in terms of mental health is a very, very positive thing to do. It can 100% help you in whatever type of crises, or not even crises. It could just be you sharing your most intimate personal thoughts and writing it down, and writing it, kind of sorting through whatever it is that you're focusing on. So I mean, I know that there have been studies done about that. Talk more about that defining moment that happened in your life, that personal tragedy that happened in your life that further prompted you to put that thought of publishing this kind of book and the importance of it.
Yeah, I did have a personal tragedy with a coworker many years ago, and he was a psychologist. And he was the life of the office, the life of the party, and just very unassuming, and, you know, like I said, brought us so much joy. And so after coming back to work on a Monday after a long weekend, and I was like, well, where is he? And we shared office. We shared an office. So we really became like family because we were sharing that workspace. And I said, just assumed, I said, well, maybe he just took off a day, maybe sick. Tuesday comes, he doesn't show. I was like, now this is not like him, 2 days in a row. 3 days, I was like, still he's not in the office. So I remember later that day, on that Wednesday, I got some unfortunate news at the time from my supervisor that he had committed suicide. And when I tell you, it was like someone had literally punched a hole in my stomach, that pain. And I really had a hard time processing it. And he wasn't from this area. So it also entailed me being in contact with his family. He was from the Midwest. So I was tasked at that time to gather all of his personal belongings in the office in preparation to take back to his family. Going through his things, there was a small journal. Never saw it while we worked together. So I was just like, let me see what he's got in here. And he had all kinds of things about the work that we did, things to do. He would even journal in one word, how he felt for the day, what was going on. But there, near the end of that journal, there was a note that said, we gotta have help for the helping professionals. We have to have help for the helping professionals. And that resonated with me because I thought about that. I said, we do need help as the helping professionals, but where do we get our help from? Because a lot of the work that we did was dealing with and addressing trauma every day. So where was our outlet beyond talking to your coworker where we could comfortably talk about it? Journaling. And so he modeled that, and I didn't even know he was journaling. And again, that even was part of the inspiration for the book.
So in the book itself, and it's from the Power Up Life Boss series, talk to us about what that is, what that means.
Well, Power Up Life Boss is the umbrella for the entire book series. So rather than calling it each, I said everything will fall under power, because that's what I'm looking at. Looking at what your internal power is. And I know a lot, like the trends are using the term empower, but I really believe that we all have our own innate sense of power. So it's a matter of igniting it, powering it up, you know, what you have, rather than looking at other places for your source. Take a look at what's going on inside, the internal, and let's reflect upon that. And then how do I make my power shine?
Wow. So in the workshops that you do, and I know that you've traveled and you've done a lot of workshops based on this premise. Just in a very basic way, tell our audience what the process is for doing that. I mean, conceptually, I could understand it, it resonates, but how does one actually take the steps to ignite the fire within, so to speak, to power up?
I think one thing that I have found over the years, Valerie, is people feeling comfortable with spending time with self. In our lives, we can be very busy with good things and with bad times, but we're so busy. But it was something when you take that time to reflect, to spend time with yourself. I do an exercise that's called a SWOT exercise, SWOT. And the acronym stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, right? And so going through that SWOT exercise, even as a personal tool, helps you to focus on who? Me. Well, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I consider as an opportunity? And certainly, what are the threats that are going on around me? The research is absolutely phenomenal, because each time I do that exercise, I'll ask the audience, I'll say, which was the easiest category for you to complete? Many times, more hands are raised for, I can identify my strengths. Many people can go through that. But then when we start looking at, well, what are my weaknesses? And what is considered an opportunity in my life right now? And then threats, time, resources. Maybe I want to go back to school, things that could be threats. And so that's how that journal helps you to organize your thoughts. It helps you to plan. It helps you to have that outlet as well as that tool for preparation to grow forward. And notice I said grow forward, not go forward,
Right.
but to grow forward.
Right. So it basically facilitates that process
Absolutely.
of working through those things. And it takes a certain level of self-awareness to really be honest with yourself when you're jotting down those 4 categories of things, and really delving deep into yourself to really find those points. And so once you find those points, how do you use them in order to ignite, to empower yourself?
Well, I think one thing
Or should we
is
wait
that,
for the book?
well, that is going to be expounding upon that. But when you have the journal, your journal becomes like your safe space.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It becomes that space that I may not have felt comfortable in saying something, but your journal is just that. It's your journal. It's your safe space. So when you look at it that way, you can put and write anything in your journal. But I do a lot of research on emotional intelligence. When we were talking about the SWOT analysis, right? And looking at self. Well, the theory of emotional intelligence by psychologist Daniel Goleman is based upon 4 concepts. The one is self-awareness. Second is self-management. Third is social awareness. And the fourth is relationship management. And so when you look at that in the concept of emotional intelligence and you add journals and other tools in it, emotional intelligence is how you're thinking and how your mindset drives your attitude and your behavior. Well, if I have a tool like a journal that can help me to channel that, most likely I'm going to make wiser decisions. Most likely I'm going to spend time with myself to look at the pros and the cons of situations. Most likely I'm going to have, again, that safe space to even write out my plans. The power of journaling.
Wow. That's very, very interesting and amazing to really have a tool that you can use that will help others to focus on the things that I think are absolutely worth taking the time to do in your journey as a person, in your journey in life and the relationships that you touch. One other thing that you mentioned indirectly in terms of using writing as therapy, there's so many different ways of doing it. I actually was in a class that focused on journaling. Actually, my prior guest, Sandra Manigault, had turned me on to a writer who, I cannot remember her name, but very prominent writer. The Artist's Way is a concept and a theory that she introduced, I think maybe 25 years ago. But in that class, because I actually recently took the class that she had been telling me years and years and years and years ago you should read the book, you should take the class. So I took the class, and journal writing was a very, very big component of it. So flipping it back to where we are today in our discussion about journal writing, one of the things that I heard in our classes, because we were supposed to write every day, like you wake up and boom, you're vomiting on the page. And even if you didn't know what to write, you had to write something. And they said, if you don't know what to write, just write, I don't know what to write, and just keep writing that until something comes to your mind to write about. So having that as a potential challenge for people who may be in the workshop, who may be okay with the